Hey guys, so just to start things off, welcome to the channel. This is the first video I'm ever posting, so just bear that in mind throughout this video because I haven't done like reviews or book talk or anything before, so yeah, this is gonna be probably pretty amateur, but hopefully that's not too bad. Yeah, today I just wanted to talk about this one certain series that I just finished recently for the first time, and I think it just needs more attention because it's a really good series. Like it was a very pleasantly surprising experience reading this series. And that series that I'm going to be talking about is the Gregor the Overlander series, or more legitimately known as the Underland Chronicles. It's a series by Suzanne Collins, the same lady who did Hunger Games. So that kind of explains as to why it's not like the most popular series, considering it's overshadowed by the freaking Hunger Games. But like I said, I feel like it just doesn't get talked about enough. I wasn't, now to be fair, I wasn't expecting a whole lot going into it. The reason why I even read them in the first place is because they've been on my bookshelf for years. Like, it has to be at least probably like 7 to 8 years, I think. I don't even remember how I got them. I think maybe my mom bought them at like a secondhand store, and just I had them since then. And I remember I read the first two books and just never finished. Not because it was bad, but because I had other stuff going on, and I think I just lost track of it all. I can officially say now that that was a terrible mistake because I had a really great time with this series. Now, how I'm going to do this video is I'm going to talk about, like, no spoiler talk. I'm going to do the pros and kind of the cons of the series, like what I liked and didn't like. And then I'll give you a warning before I start like spoiler talk. There is just some spoilers that I want to mention something about, especially like the ending of the series. But I will give you guys a fair warning in case you haven't read the series. And I will put a timestamp that you can skip to the end where I give like my final thoughts and kind of grade, I guess, is what I'm going to do. So yeah, just that's basically what's going on. Now, talking about the things I really liked about the series. The characters, for sure. They are probably the best thing about the entire series. Just Gregor as the main character. He's this 11-year-old kid who gets sucked into this secret underground world, and he's kind of the role of the warrior from a bunch of these old prophecies depicting like the future of the Underland is what the world is called. It's kind of thrown onto his shoulders. He is supposed to be the warrior, even though he's just this 11-year-old kid. So he's a very relatable guy. You're following him as he's learning about all this stuff for the first time. You're learning with him. And I feel like Suzanne did a really good job of just getting us to like him, even though, you know, he is kind of just the typical sort of like chosen one protagonist, you know. I think she kind of fleshed him out enough that he stands out on his own when compared to at least a bunch of other chosen ones. But it has to be not side characters, I don't want to call them, but I will call them side characters just for like easiness. Boots as Gregor's little sister, she is amazing. She is both funny and adorable at the same time. Like, it's actually impressive how it's just this baby sister role, but she never got annoying, which is kind of the trope that a lot of authors go for with siblings, especially younger ones. And I really appreciate that because basically any line that Boots had, I was smiling at. It was kind of a new thing for me because I haven't had a character that I just genuinely enjoyed for a while now. So Boots is probably my favorite. But there's also characters like Luxa and Vicus, who are Underlanders. They are people that Gregor meets once he's in this new world. And they're good. The thing that I like most about them is they have their own personal problems going on that like don't revolve around Gregor. You can tell that there's a lot of depth put into their development, and just they have their whole life doesn't circle around this whole warrior prophecy thing. They have other like political stuff going on. There's this council that they have to deal with constantly, and yeah, it's just it does a good job of making it feel like this world is real. And then there's also the different creatures in the Underland, which I really like. There's the big bats, there's the big cockroaches, there's spiders, there's a bunch of stuff. The rats, and don't even get me started on the fireflies. I really enjoyed characters like Ares and Temp. They are really well kind of built characters. The species in general are really well built. They each have their own sort of like quirks and traits that make them each special. I like the way the cockroaches talk. It's kind of like this backwards manner. It's kind of like Yoda except with extra steps, if that makes sense. The bats, they're just kind of this quiet, wise species, I suppose you could say, and they're the closest to the humans. And then, of course, the rats, they're like the worst. At the beginning, they're kind of just this, evil force that Gregor has to fight. And that kind of continues on, but I still like the species because there is good rats, and there's bad rats, a lot of bad rats, but still, the species, they're all, fun, unique. I had a good time with them. Something else that I really liked about this series is just the story itself, because, like I said, it is sort of cliche with the whole chosen one thing, but with the world that it's set in and the characters, it makes it different enough that it's, warranted. Series that it reminds me of, one series that it reminds me of right off the bat is Percy Jackson, but there definitely is differences between the two. And surprisingly, this story, even though I feel like it's meant for, I know it is meant for kids. I think it said like ages 8 to 12 is the demographic that they were going for. But, I mean, this story, it has some very mature themes, like some dark subject matter comes up, and it's still safe for kids, don't get me wrong, but I was really caught off guard by some of the stuff that went down, especially in the final two books, because like there is this isn't much of a spoiler, but there is like character deaths that go on in this series. These two books especially were kind of, they weren't holding back. They were just doing what they wanted to do. Also, I just want to say, I have this entire collection, but how freaking annoying is it that these books, book 1 to 4, they're all the same spine. 5, look, book 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 is up here. How annoying is that? Did I just get the wrong book? What's going on here? And yeah, the dark subject matter that they cover, it's actually really well done for a children's series. It doesn't it doesn't sugarcoat it, is what I'm trying to say. It actually gets kind of brutal, but I was never, upset at it. And quickly, the one last thing that I want to talk about as to why I really like the series is it has like a fast pace to it, which is good for children's series, but I feel like sometimes it can be done bad. Like a whole series can just go by way too quick. But Suzanne had a good balance of kind of fast paced and kind of taking some slower moments. But that does lead me into some of the cons, because it is fast paced, but there was some moments where it was too fast. I wish I had wrote it down in my journal, but there was one page in either the second or third book where I swear we jumped between 4 different locations in like 1 or 2 pages. Like it went by way too quick, and like I had to go back and reread some of the sentences in order to understand really what was going on. So that's sort of just a small nitpick. Otherwise, the fast pace was done well. Just there was certain moments where it was, too fast. Plus, the other con that I have written down here is Some of the characters that we get to know, I don't feel like they had enough development. That could also be caused by the fast pace, because there's only so much that she could fit in one book. But there's some characters that I felt we were supposed to care more about, but I just didn't. I felt like we didn't have enough time with them. We didn't know enough about their backstories. It could just be me. Maybe some people felt like really close to those characters with the little that we were given. But for my personal preference, I felt like we didn't quite get enough of some of the characters, especially the ones that did end up getting killed. I felt like we should have felt closer to them, but I just didn't. So that kind of sucks. It didn't happen much. Most of the characters were well done, but there was some like more side characters that was the case. And honestly, I would have just liked to learn more about the world itself, because I feel like there was a lot of stuff that we didn't explore even in like all 5 books, because there was lands that we didn't even learn about, or we heard about them, but we didn't get to really see them all that well. There was the, what was it, the Firelands or something? It had a bunch of volcanoes. That was book 4. We didn't spend much time there though. We had a big event happen there, but then they kind of just left and we never went back. And then there was all this talk about the land outside of the mapped areas. It was like the Deadlands, I think they called it. We never got to see it. I kind of thought that would come into play at some point. Plus, some of the species didn't quite get enough attention for my personal liking. I would have liked to see more of the fireflies, if I'm being honest, because we only got to meet 2 fireflies throughout the whole thing, and they were apparently the good ones. I think it would have been funny to see some of the worst ones. Plus, there was, I felt kind of like the spiders didn't get much attention at all, compared to at least the cockroaches and the rats. The 3 main ones were the bats, cockroaches, rats. We got a lot of those, but there was a few other ones that could have gotten fleshed out more. It wouldn't have hurt, like, to learn more about them, is just what I'm saying. But yeah, a lot of those cons that I'm talking about could be considered personal preferences on my part, but it definitely wasn't. It definitely had its flaws, I would say, but you can't be too hard on them because it is, after all, a children's series. Okay, and that leads me into spoiler talk. So down here, I will put a timestamp in case you just want to skip over and go to my final grading. But yeah, just, you've been warned. I'm about to start talking spoilers. So see you in a bit, I guess. Anyway, for those of you who are still here, I feel like the finale is what I want to talk about first. I feel like it was as good as it could have been. I know that there's a lot of people that I saw talking on like Reddit and just Google saying that they didn't like the open-endedness of the ending and how we didn't get to learn what happened exactly to Gregor and his family. But I feel like it was the right choice that Suzanne made, because Gregor, at the end of the story, he's messed up. That's the best way to put it. That man has actual like PTSD, and he's a 12-year-old kid. So I feel like any choice that Suzanne could have made, whether she had them move to Virginia, had them move to the Underland maybe, or had them stay in New York, there would have been readers who didn't like it, who thought it was wrong. So I kind of appreciate the way that she kind of trusted us in order to make our own assumptions, to decide what we think the right ending would be for the characters. Because yeah, Gregor's been through a war. He's completely changed from like just any normal 12-year-old kid that's walking around. He can't just go back into society and just chill like his family seems to want him to. So in my personal preference, I would like to see him, still be able to go to the Underland a little bit, at least stay in New York and maybe be able to go there every once in a while. But I can see why some people would think that wouldn't be good, because he should maybe get away from it all. So I don't know. I definitely get everyone's opinions, and I feel like Suzanne, she made the right call with ending it off open. Of course, I would have liked to see my ending be true, be canon, but I I don't have like any real problems with it. I just wanted to share my thoughts on that because I feel like it's kind of disliked or hated a little too much, that ending. I feel like it was good. It kind of definitely goes back to the mature themes that I was talking about. It focuses on like war and murder, the whole story. So it I can't expect it to have a happy ending with the sort of topics that she poked in on. But yeah, that's basically all I wanted to say about the finale. Other things that I want to talk about, spoiler wise, Rip Red. He is a great character. I feel like I think I forgot to mention him actually in the non spoiler bit. But Rip Red might be, well, to Boots, compared to Boots, he might be my second favorite character, Rip Red, because I really appreciated that little extra bit of character arc that we got for him in the fifth book, the final book, about his family being killed by Hamnet. But I do just wish that we had gotten a little more interaction between Hamnet and Rip Red about that, because we know that Rip Red didn't really hold a grudge against him, even though he did kill his family. I would have just liked to know a little more of the thought behind, Rip Red's character in that sort of scene where he's literally with his family's killer. Even though he forgives him, I feel like that could have been explored a little bit. You know what I'm saying? I feel like it would have been interesting to see sort of his inner thoughts, his inner workings. I don't know how they would have done it, but would have just been cool. And the off-page deaths that we got, there was characters like Twitch Tip and Sullivan. They died straight up off-screen, off-page. If is that the like right term for books? Off-page deaths, where Gregor didn't even see it happen. He heard about it afterwards. I liked that. Twitch Tip, I liked her character. I was wondering when we were gonna see her again, and then we just straight up learned she's dead. She just died in a pit somewhere. That's sad, but I kind of like that she took it that far, Suzanne, because it kind of gave it this more realistic feel. Because there's no way Gregor would be there for every important character death. This is a war. Like, people are gonna get killed far away. Gregor will never see them again. He won't get to say goodbye. And that's just how it works. I really was not expecting that from a children's series. So I have like a whole respect for the deaths, especially Ares, because Ares was on page. We saw him die, but there was no goodbye. There was no special dramatic scene. He just died. The Bane killed him like immediately, just one bite to the neck, and that was it. At first I was like, damn, that's a little too tough. But then after time, I was just like, you know what? No, that's okay, because it sort of made sense in the aspect of Ares' character. He was a very I don't know, he had a tough life after Henry died in the first book. Even after he bonded with Gregor, Ares still had a lot of people, shunning him, pushing him off to the side, not letting him, hang out with people. He was off on his own a lot, and it sucks that we didn't get to see him fully accepted back into the society of the Underland. But he had a rough life, and it doesn't always work out perfectly for that. Plus, I feel like he was happy enough just with Gregor being his bond. He was happy that he was still, like, of use, that Gregor cared about him. And I think it would kind of have complicated things if Ares was still around by the end of the story, because he would have been one other thing kind of keeping Gregor close to the Underland. There was already Luxa and his relationship with her, but if Ares was still there, it would have been a lot harder for him to leave, and a lot harder for him to leave behind completely. So it sort of made sense, and I don't know. I really have no problems with it, is what I'm saying, because I don't know. I feel like it's just a much more mature story than we typically get. Because, like I said, it reminds me of Percy Jackson, the overall story. But I feel like even Percy Jackson didn't go that dark into it, at least in the first series, not like Heroes of Olympus and Trials of Pole or those ones. They kind of go into more dark stuff afterwards, but in the first Percy Jackson and the Olympian series, they do kill off people, but it is a lot of characters that we really didn't spend time with. I feel like this series kind of has like a one up on them on that, because it was not afraid to do some dark stuff. Okay, yeah, that is it for spoiler talk. Welcome back, anybody who skipped. Yeah, just overall thoughts on the series. Really enjoyed it. Other than those few little flaws that I had from personal preference, I thought it was a really well-made children's series. I'm definitely keeping these books. The reason I read them was because I wanted to know if I should keep them or just give them to another secondhand store, get them off my shelf. But I'm definitely keeping these. Gonna have my kids read them in the future. Teach them some life lessons, some dark stuff. Get that dark stuff in their heads immediately, you know? But yeah, pleasant surprise. Was really not expecting to enjoy it as much as I did. So yeah, if I had to give it a grade out of 10, I would probably give the entire series an 8. It was really well made, and I won't lie, I haven't even read Hunger Games, so I don't know. I don't really have anything to compare it to for her other work, but Suzanne Collins, you have an extra fan now. I like your work. You're a good author. Who would have thought? Okay, so that is it. So I do realize that was very amateur, and I just kind of went off on a bunch of tangents every once in a while. But yeah, I felt like this series just needed to be talked about more. Maybe if you guys, if anybody, you know, if there's people watching this, you guys can go down in the comments, talk about it amongst yourselves. I'll be down there for sure to talk about it more, because I just want to, spread the love of the series a little bit. If you did happen to enjoy the video, please, drop a like, subscribe to the channel. I will be posting more book stuff every now and then whenever I find a series that I feel is worth it, or I will do individual books too. And if you guys have any recommendations for stories that are, similar to this, or just something that you also enjoyed, throw it down in the comments. I will write it down and look into it. So yeah, that is it. So I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you all later. Peace.